Hi, this first video, I'm going to go through the iPad and just show you some of the basics, some of the hardware buttons and basics on how to set the settings to get your iPad operating the way that I recommend. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to go through is the hardware. So I want to point out that at the very top, on the front and on the back, is a camera setting. So if you want to take pictures, you can do it from either the front or the back. The on-off button is in the top here, and it'll take it from sleep to wake, or if you want to turn it off or on, you hold it down to turn it off. It'll come up with a slide to power off. I'm going to cancel that right now. If you want to turn it on, hold that button down for probably 5 seconds, and the apple will appear and it'll come up. The home button is most often used. That's the one down here. There's a side switch next to there's volume up and down, and there's a side switch. I just have this stylus there. There's a side switch there, and then I'm going to show you in a minute how to configure this side switch. Okay, see, it's right above the volume. One thing on the headphone jack is at the top up here. The speaker is down at the bottom. Most cases are built so you can get access to those. One thing I do want to mention is that there is no printing from an iPad in general. There are a few specific printers that if you're set up for that, you can do it. But in general, in our environment, don't expect to print from an iPad. And there's no USB port. So getting your files on and off the iPad is something that we need to strategize about. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go into settings and show you some of the basic settings. The settings icon, it's a set of gears. You get into it, you look all the way down the left. There's a lot of different options there. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. I'm going to go through the general settings. So click on General. The first thing I want to point out is under About. It'll give you information about what's on that iPad, how much space is available, what model it is, that kind of stuff. I just want to point that out. Okay, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to click the General on the top to go back to the General list, and I'm going to work my way down here on a couple things that I think are so important you need to set. The next one is Siri. You want to make sure that Siri is on. Okay, so move that button to green. When you want to use Siri, you hold the home button down, and that will enable Siri. But at first, I want to make sure that it's set on for you. The next thing is this section that's called multitasking gestures. I want to make sure that you have that on so that the green shows. Underneath it, it shows a few of the most commonly used multitasking gestures. What this does is enable you to use a swipe on the screen instead of a button. Next down is a section called Use Side Switch, and the default is set to mute. I recommend you put it on lock rotation, which is where I have it set. That's referring to this little button above the volume on the side. And like you can see, my iPad is in landscape mode now. If I click it, it'll show that it's locking it, and I can't now make it go to portrait. It locks it into landscape mode. If I take it off, it'll turn whichever way you turn the iPad. So depending on what you want to do, you might want to lock it on or off. Next one down, I suggest you look at is the keyboard. Make sure that these greens are on, particularly the predictive keyboard. Okay, and at the very bottom, there's an enable dictation. You want to make sure that that's on. I'm going to show you how to use those things. Okay, so those are the primary settings I want to make sure that you know about and know where they are. So I'm going to get out of settings for now. You can go poke around in settings at some other time and play with more things if you need to. The home screen. This is the main screen that appears when you power up. Okay, there's app icons. These, on the first page are the standard icons that come with the iPad. As you swipe to additional screens, you can see on the bottom here there's 3 dots. That shows there's 3 screens of apps on this iPad, and I can move between them by swiping back and forth like that. This bottom part is called the dock row, and that stays the same no matter what screen I swipe to. So you can put the icons on this row that you know you need to access from anywhere all the time. Okay, I want to explain a search. If you swipe down from the middle of your iPad, it takes you to a search. And you can type in the name of any app that you want to use. Sometimes it's hard to find them, particularly if the iPads are used by a lot of different people and they've installed a lot of different things on here. You can always search. Okay, a few other things of note. If you swipe down from the very top like that, it pulls down notifications. I just want you to know about it. And if you swipe up from the bottom, it brings up a control center. And from there you can control sound playing. You can control the brightness. I should probably put it on bright. Sound settings, you can put it on airplane mode, that kind of thing. So that's an easy access without having to go back to settings to control an awful lot of things on your iPad. Okay, I mentioned the multi-touch gestures before. If I go into an application, I want to point out that if you tap once, it'll put your cursor where you tap. If you tap twice, it'll highlight and bring up a bar. Okay, if I want to change something, I can tap once and move the cursor, hold it, and move the cursor around. That's how you edit. Okay, the pinch is to grab in like that. And that'll close an app like one click of the button. And swipe is 4 fingers up. And what that will do is take me to the multitasking display. Okay, what this does is show me all the apps that are open on my iPad. And to close them, I take it and I pull it up and out of the way. Okay, I don't want settings open anymore. I pull it up out of the way. Now it's closed. The only things open on my iPad at this point in time is the Notes app. Okay, it's important to know about that. The other way to get into it, it's either 4-finger swipe up or it's a double tap of the button. But I recommend you learn the multi-touch gestures because it wears the buttons out if you push them way too many times. You want to close the apps that you're not using. Sometimes you'll end up with 20 different apps open, and if you're not using them, close down the ones you're not using. When you turn your iPad off and turn it back on, like all the way power down, it does not close apps. They'll stay open. So it is good to know about that way to get into the multitasking display. Okay, that's all I'm going to go through on this one. The next video I'm going to make is on accessibility features. Thank you.